The sabotage plot is a national security issue. And here's another key point. A devaluation is a national security issue. So, hey presto, all of a sudden, rampant U.S. official criminality is enveloped more than ever within the national security blanket, accounting for the reported information blackout that has been applied for several weeks now, as the perpetrators fronted by the operative Obama decide what on earth to do for their own advantage, and how to do it. But so far as foreigners are concerned, such a prospective malevolent and deliberately spiteful devaluation of the US dollar on the scale that is being contemplated represents a de facto act of economic warfare against Britain and the rest of the world, and therefore very legitimately necessitates conscientious investigative analysis by journalists such as the editor of this service. Recapitulation of recent escalating fateful events as previously reported. The CIA President of the United States, a veteran agency operatives who reportedly traveled on British, Indonesian, Kenyan and U.S. passports with 22 years of service in the agency, was served by the Chinese on Sunday 1 August 2009 with a hand-delivered letter confirming a drop-dead deadline of Friday 7 August for implementation of the World Court writ of execution requirement the settlement payouts to be finalized. The Chinese letter became necessary after tensions rose between the U.S. and Chinese delegations during the bilateral G2 meetings in Washington in late July, when 150 Chinese officials fanned out all over the U.S. geomasonic capital, ostensibly to tackle innumerable bilateral issues. In reality, what happened at the main G2 sessions was that the two sides read out their respective position papers, with no real consensus on key issues being reached at all. Moreover, the Chinese authorities issued further warnings to the effect that they were not about to purchase U.S. assets as required by the U.S. Treasury, while also demanding that the U.S. Treasury increase its issuance of Treasury inflation-protected securities (TIPS). This represented, in effect, a rebuff to the arrogant and foul-mouthed U.S. Treasury Secretary, Timothy Geithner. In the course of the subsequent week, the servants of the British monarchical authority, assisted by the Chinese parties, were reported to us to have taken complete control of the settlement's payout process so that the resolution, as they understood, was supposedly taken plainly into the hands of the injured parties. Confirmation of this crucial fact was indeed obtained from numerous sources, including sources inside the Federal Reserve System. As an immediate result of this development, the International Monetary Fund was reported to us to have paid the long outstanding monies into the hands of the 155 payee countries on Thursday 6 August. 5. These payments were released as a direct consequence of the assumption of total control over the resolution by the British monarchical authority served inter alia by Miles 6. This paragraph I found very interesting. Malevolent intended slap in the face for the Queen, most deliciously from the perspective of the criminal American mental defectives concocting this monument officially contemplated provocation. It will spite Her Majesty the Queen, the primary victim, thanks to very bad advice now thought to have been proffered by Jacob, Lord Rothschild, previously a friend of the monarch, of thefts and scams perpetrated by the bushling of the U.S. criminal intelligence kleptocracy. Immediate foreign currency consequences. A drastic U.S. dollar devaluation such as is being contemplated by these madmen sends the pound sterling to a trading range of $2.64 to $2.97, the euro to a trading range of $2.29 to $2.57, the Japanese yen to 38.9 yen to 19.1 yen, the Swiss franc to SFR 0.612 SFR 0.306, and the price of gold to anything between $1,545 and $1,740 per fine ounce, which makes no sense whatsoever, except on the assumption that we are dealing with a nest of cornered rats determined to extricate themselves at any cost from the box that encases them due to their own serial recklessness and criminal behavior. And given the systematic flouting of the rule of law, of all residual standards of integrity and proper behavior, and the destruction of the full faith and credit of the United States that these unfettered operatives, protected by the recalcitrant intelligence power, perpetrated in recent years the twists and turns of which have been extensively recorded here and, for the permanent record, in successive issues of our journal International Currency Review. 3. The appropriate and necessary assumption that must be made, pending evidence to the contrary, is that the rats will do anything to save themselves. Official adherence to the sterile restart derivatives markets mantra. So here we have official confirmation of the reality that, as discussed in these reports, the Stolen US Treasury foolishly, in defiance of advice proffered by the former Fed chairman, Paul Volcker, thought that it could restart derivatives trading on the scale to which everyone had previously been accustomed, following the discontinuity that occurred on 10 to 12 September 2008, when the $14.0 plus trillion previously referenced, including the $6.2 trillion of loan funds, were placed, on our recommendation, into lockdown, and the fact that attempts to restart derivatives operations on the former scale have, as we predicted, almost completely failed. Mind you, the Congressional Oversight Panel hasn't understood much, either, as its latest report contained the following fatuous jargon-riddled sentence: the Treasury must assure robust legacy securities and legacy loan programs or consider a different strategy to do whatever can be done to restart the market for those assets. When the blind lead the blind, both shall fall into the ditch. But this needn't cause any surprise, since the establishment on both sides of the Atlantic got everything so profoundly wrong, because of its involvement in the corruption, that all sense of intellectual cohesion, let alone integrity, has long since been lost. For instance, the Bank of England's credibility and authority have both been decimated over the past 2 years, given that the bank's inflation report for August 2007 was even then still parroting the received consensus wisdom that securitization had made the banking system safer and more resilient, because it had procured that a great deal of financial risk was no longer on the bank's balance sheets. Yikes. The fact that what was happening was illegal and criminal was evidently not an issue that featured on the Bank of England's radar back then because, of course, as we reported at that time, the Bank of England was itself heavily engaged in fraudulent finance operations conducted through the Birmingham back-office operations fronted by Carl Daniels, remember? Recall, too, that in 2007, we reported that the late Sir Eddie Lord George, the former governor of the Bank of England, was arrested, like his discredited American counterpart, Dr. Alan Greenspan, for his involvement in questionable off-balance sheet financial engineering activities. The end of highlights. Please check more info for the link to the source page and supporting YouTube's in playlists. After watching the first, be sure to click play all or play next under more info box. For more from me, go to youtube.com/thankyou White Knights and be sure to check my playlists link at top in my channel page. Thank you White Knights, enjoy.